Have you ever paid top dollar for lightning-fast internet, only to watch it get sucked dry by invisible leeches right when your biggest client call of the year was on the line? What if those leeches were bolted to your own roof by the smiling HOA president who preached community spirit like it was gospel? And how sweet would the revenge taste when the same woman who once slandered you as the neighborhood's biggest troublemaker finally realized she just picked a fight with the wrong quiet guy? My name is Tyler Brooks, and this is the story of how a pastel cardigan-wearing dictator turned my roof into her personal bandwidth buffet, then watched her little suburban empire implode in the most satisfying way possible. Welcome to Willow Creek Estates, where every lawn is mowed to the exact HOA-approved 3 inches, every flag waves at the precise 45-degree angle, and the smiles are as fake as Karen Sinclair's greater good speeches. On paper it's the American dream. In reality it's a velvet-gloved dictatorship run by clipboard warriors who fine you for the wrong shade of mulch but turn a blind eye to actual theft. 6 months earlier, Karen had already painted me as public enemy number 1. I dared to question why we needed board approval to install solar panels that actually save the planet. She responded by circulating anonymous notes calling me uncooperative and potentially invasive. At the annual block party she'd smiled that saccharine smile and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people just don't understand community, do they? Neighbors started crossing the street when they saw me. Kids were told not to play near my yard. I kept my mouth shut, kept my head down and kept my gigabit fiber connection humming, because in cybersecurity the loud ones lose. The quiet ones build traps. That Tuesday should have been my jackpot. I was in my home office, tie perfect, notes crisp, staring at the grinning VP from a fintech giant. $75,000 a year on the line for a penetration testing contract. One more handshake through the screen and my year was made. Then the video stuttered. Tense. The connection dropped like someone had yanked the cord. 3 frantic reboots later the client sent the kiss-off email. Technical difficulties on your end are concerning for a security consultant. We'll go elsewhere. 50 grand a year, poof. Ready to take a nap. I stormed into the living room. Router clutched like it had personally betrayed me. The bandwidth monitor looked like a heart attack EKG. Spikes everywhere. Unknown devices. All routing through one suspicious node on my roof. I stood there whispering words that would make sailors blush, then grabbed the ladder before I could talk myself out of it. Up I went. 3 shiny professionally mounted Wi-Fi repeaters bolted straight into my roof tiles, blinking happily, humming along wired directly into my power lines like greedy little goblins at an all-you-can-steal buffet. No notice. Just pure HOA entitlement. They weren't even hidden. Community art. I climbed back down, jaw clenched, and marched straight to the HOA office. Karen sat behind her desk like a suburban judge. Peppermint bowl expired since the Obama administration. Pastel cardigan draped over her shoulders like a coronation robe. Before I could even open my mouth she hit me with a smile. Oh Tyler, sweetie. We were meaning to inform you about our new community connectivity initiative. You've been selected as a central hub. Isn't that exciting?
I stared. You bolted equipment to my roof without asking.
She waved a manicured hand. Bulletin board 3 months ago, dear. You didn't object, so by our bylaws you consented. It's for the greater good. Think of the children streaming their educational videos. We can't have everyone thinking they're special snowflakes with their own private internet. She said it with such sweet conviction I almost laughed. Almost. Instead I just nodded. Community first. Then I walked out. What Karen didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I used to design classified network security systems for government contractors. I track hackers for fun. I back half the neighborhood through my private connection while billing me for the electricity. Something inside me went very, very still. That night I started surveillance. Tracked bandwidth consumption, monitored electrical draw. 14 homes were leeching, streaming 4K, gaming Fortnite marathons, even one setup running crypto miners that sounded like a jet engine at 2 a.m. My power bill had jumped $300 last month. I was literally paying for Karen's Netflix binges and her neighbor's digital sins. Operation Bandwidth Clampdown was born right there on my kitchen table at midnight. I built a splash page that looked official, polished, boring, the kind of thing nobody reads. Provider maintenance update. Click accept to continue. Buried deep in the fine print. A usage clause, 35 cents per gigabyte, pass 5 gigabytes daily. Within 24 hours, 10 households clicked agree. Digital consent locked and loaded. A shell company called Datalink Utility Services. Small at first, $50, $100, just enough to sting without raising immediate flags. The first bills hit mailboxes like tiny grenades. I watched through a hidden cam. I'd slipped into one of the repeaters as Karen stormed into the HOA treasurer's office waving her invoice like it was radioactive. Harold, this is outrageous. The provider is robbing us blind. Harold, sweating like a man who just realized he approved something stupid, cut a check on the spot. I sat in my dark living room eating popcorn, grinning so wide my face hurt. But HOAs don't surrender gracefully. The next morning I woke up to 3 bright orange citations taped to my door. Unauthorized rooftop equipment, aesthetic violation, public endangerment from unstable antenna deployment. The irony was so thick I could taste it. They'd installed the damn things and now they were fining me for them. I didn't yell. I just smiled at the camera I'd hidden in my doorbell and whispered, "Game on." That same afternoon a soft knock came at my door. Miss Eleanor Field stood there in her oversized gardening hat, holding a pitcher of lemonade and wearing the sweetest little old lady smile you've ever seen. "Tyler, dear, I couldn't help noticing those ugly repeaters on your roof. They installed the same unlicensed junk on mine 10 years ago. Thought I should mention I used to audit frequency violations for the FCC. I nearly dropped my glass. Transmitters. Within an hour we were 2 nerdy vigilantes poring over logs on my kitchen table. Unlicensed hardware, improper power routing, clear code violations, not just petty, straight-up illegal. While the official complaints crawled through bureaucracy like molasses in January, I decided to have some fun. I pushed a firmware update into every repeater. Every 6 minutes they'd reset, drop signal, reboot, and during the reboot a cheerful robotic voice would announce, "Network interruption courtesy of HOA bandwidth theft. Please thank President Karen Sinclair for the inconvenience." Fortnite matches imploded mid-game. Netflix froze during steamy scenes. Smart doorbells glitched and started playing the national anthem at random. The neighborhood group chat exploded. Solar flares. Government spying. Divine punishment for bad mulch. Karen blamed cyber terrorists in a frantic all-caps post. Then came the emergency HOA meeting. Closed doors, members only. They forgot one tiny detail. The repeaters still ran through my network. I live-streamed the whole thing to a private resident group I'd quietly created. Karen was pacing red-faced, ranting about troublemakers destroying our perfect community. Harold was sweating bullets trying to explain the mystery invoices he'd paid. Residents watched in real time, jaws dropping as Karen's mask slipped, and the entitled dictator underneath emerged. The tide turned faster than I expected. Turns out I wasn't the only one tired of citations for whimsical bird baths and wind chimes. People started sharing screenshots, late fees for improper holiday lighting, bogus charges for excessive mailbox glitter, forced lawn color corrections. The HOA wasn't a community board. It was a pastel-curtained regime. Karen retaliated, of course. Accusations of defamation. So I responded with something scarier than yelling. Legal letterhead. A cease and desist drafted by my attorney friend, co-signed by Eleanor and a retired municipal judge 3 houses down. Beautiful, echoing silence followed. Then came the transparency audit request I'd buried deep in the bylaws. Financial disclosures flooded every mailbox. Meanwhile, one final firmware update changed the repeater's Wi-Fi name to Karen Stole Bandwidth. Connecting redirected users to a page that simply read, "Ask your HOA why your Wi-Fi sucks." Screenshots flooded the forum. Memes exploded. Started asking questions. At the next open meeting, Eleanor stood up in her gardening hat and motioned to remove Karen from the board. The vote wasn't even close. The repeaters came down that weekend. I filmed myself unscrewing every last bolt, cables thudding into the trash bin like defeated snakes. Neighbors brought pie. X3 internet bills. Another quietly admitted his crypto rig had been the biggest drain and slipped me a six-pack as apology. When the dust settled, Karen tried one last desperate lawsuit. I answered with 26 pages of documented evidence and a counterclaim for energy theft and property violations. Case dropped in 2 weeks. Sunrise. No fanfare, just a moving truck and a trunk full of wilted petunias. The new neighbors? A retired IT professor and his gamer daughter. They brought a cake shaped like a router. The HOA reformed. No tech installs without written consent. And on my shelf sits a small anonymous trophy someone mailed me. King of bandwidth. Look, here's the truth nobody says out loud. Tiny tyrants with clipboards don't think they're stealing. They think they're entitled. Power isn't loud, it's assumed. The moment someone questions it, the whole illusion cracks. You don't always need to shout to win. Sometimes justice is a steady connection, a few lines of code, and the patience to let entitlement do the rest. So if your HOA ever bolts something to your roof without asking, unplug it. Or go nuclear. Just don't stay silent.